Hey guys, I hope you've had a great spring break and Easter. I know I have missed you all so much not being at school, but I'm very thankful that we still get to read books together even if we can't go to school. And I want to review the chapter book we've been reading before we start since we've been off for a week. If you remember the title of our book, it's The Mouse and the Motorcycle by Beverly Cleary. And some of the characters we've met in our book are Mr. and Mrs. Gridsley and their son Keith, Matt the bellhop at the hotel where they're staying in rooms 215 and 216, and we've met a mouse named Ralph and his mother, and some of his family members like Uncle Lester and Aunt Dorothy. So far in our story, Ralph the mouse rode Keith's toy motorcycle into the wastebasket, and Keith helped rescue him, and then they became friends. And after they were friends, Keith agreed that Ralph could ride the motorcycle at night, and Keith would play with the motorcycle during the daytime. And then while Ralph was riding the motorcycle at night, he got shut out of room 215, and then when he rode into the room the next morning, Keith's mom saw him, so then she complained to the housekeeping that she had seen mice. And so the head housekeeper told the maid that was cleaning Keith's room to make sure to clean really well and look for any evidence of mice, and to also make sure to clean really, really well under the bed. And it just so happened that Ralph was under the bed with the motorcycle when she was vacuuming under it. And so he had to try to get away, and to do that, he decided to ride the motorcycle, except for something went wrong, and he rode right into a pillowcase that he couldn't get out of. And then the maid took that pillowcase with all the other dirty sheets from Keith's room and put them in the big laundry pile, and was going to take all of them to the laundry to get washed. So Ralph had to try to save himself in the motorcycle by chewing through the sheets and the towels and things that were in there. But eventually it was going to take too long, and he knew that he had no choice if he was going to get out of there, that he had to leave the motorcycle. And so then he went back to his house where they were having a family reunion because Keith has been bringing them food, so they had a big party. And then he had to tell Keith, after Keith gave him a present of a really cool motorcycle helmet that he had made him, Ralph had to tell Keith that he had lost his motorcycle. So before we start chapter 9, of course, we have some questions that you need to be listening for the answers to. Like, is Keith still mad at Ralph in this chapter? And why is Ralph's mother and all of his family so scared? And why do they think that they have to move? And what is Ralph's plan to keep his family from having to move? Okay? I hope you enjoy chapter 9. Chapter 9, Ralph Takes Command. It was a sad night for Ralph, a sad and lonely night. If he went back to the mouse hole, his mother was sure to worry him with embarrassing questions about the motorcycle. She would also expect him to help clean up after the family reunion. If he took off his crash helmet, he could squeeze under the door and explore the hall on foot, but he could not bear to part with the helmet. And anyway, he had no desire to travel by foot where he had once ridden with such noise and speed. Ralph scurried through shadows on the floor to the curtain, which he climbed to the windowsill. There he sat, huddled and alone, staring out into the night, listening to the kissing sounds of the bats as they jerked and zigzagged from the eaves of the hotel, through the pines and back again. Around the windows, the leaves of a Virginia creeper vine shifted in the breeze, and down in the lobby, a clock struck midnight. An owl slid silently through the night across the clearing of the parking lot from one pine to another. Ralph could remember a time when he had envied bats and owls for their ability to fly, but that was before he had experienced the speed and power of a motorcycle. Early in the morning, the smell of bacon drifting up from the kitchen brought back all Ralph's dreams of the ground floor. It was not long until he was embarrassed to discover that Keith was awake and was lying quietly in bed watching him. "Hi," said Keith. "Oh, hello." Ralph wished he had returned to the mouse hole before dawn. "Well, I guess it's about time for me to go home to bed." Keith sat up. "Don't go yet. Wait until my folks get up." Ralph leapt to the floor. "I didn't think you would want to talk to me after I lost your motorcycle." "I may never have another chance to talk to a mouse." Ralph was flattered. It had never occurred to him that a boy would consider talking to a mouse anything special. "What would you like for breakfast?" asked Keith. "You mean we will still get room service after what I did?" "Sure." Keith pulled his knees up under his chin and wrapped his arms around his legs. "You mean you aren't mad at me anymore?" asked Ralph. "I guess you might say I'm mad, but not real mad," Keith decided. "I've been lying here thinking it wouldn't be right for me to be real mad because I get into messes myself. My mom and dad tell me I don't stop to use my head." Ralph nodded. "I guess that's my trouble too. I don't stop to use my head." "They say I'm in too much of a hurry," said Keith. "They say I don't want to take time to learn to do things properly." Ralph nodded again. He understood. If he had waited until he had learned to ride the motorcycle, he would never have ridden off the bedside table into the wastebasket. "I'll never forget the first time I rode a bicycle with handbrakes," reminisced Keith. "I took right off down a hill. I'd always ridden bicycles with foot brakes, and when I got going too fast, I tried to put on foot brakes, only there weren't any." "What happened?" Ralph was fascinated. "By the time I remembered to use the handbrakes, I hit a tree and took an awful spill." Somehow, this story made Ralph feel better. He was not the only one who got into trouble. "The hard part is," continued Keith, "I am in a hurry. I don't want to do kid things. I want to do big things, real things. I want to grow up." "You look pretty grown up to me," said Ralph. "Maybe to a mouse," conceded Keith. "But I want to look grown up to grown-ups." "So do I," said Ralph with feeling. "I want to grow up and go down to the ground floor." "Everybody tells me to be patient," said Keith. "I don't want to be patient." "Me neither," agreed Ralph. Someone stirred next door in room 216. "Well, I guess I better be running along," said Ralph. "Say, about that breakfast." "Sure, what do you want?" "How about some bacon?" suggested Ralph, remembering the fragrance that had floated up to the windowsill. "And some toast?" "With jelly," agreed Ralph, and ran off to the mouse hole, eager to tell his family things were not so bad after all. They were still entitled to room service. But when Ralph reached the mouse hole, he found pandemonium. His brothers and sisters and cousins were huddled together, squeaking with fright. His mother picked up a bunch of shredded Kleenex and put it down again, only to pick up another bunch as if she did not know what to do with it. Uncle Lester and Aunt Dorothy were there, too, stuffing crumbs into their mouths as if they expected never to eat again. "Dear me," Ralph's mother was saying, "whatever shall we do? Oh, Ralph, there you are at last. Where on earth have you been? Never mind, we haven't time." "Time for what?" asked Ralph. "What's going on around here anyway?" "The housekeeper." "Your Uncle Lester. The sheets. Oh, do be quiet, everybody." Ralph's mother was so agitated she could not tell her son what was wrong. Uncle Lester swallowed a mouthful of crumbs. "It's like this, Ralph. The housekeeper discovered a hamper full of sheets and towels and pillowcases with holes chewed in them." "Uh-oh," thought Ralph. Whatever had happened was all his fault. He might have known. "I heard her telephoning the manager about it from her office," continued Uncle Lester. "The manager came up and called in all the maids and the bellboys, and everyone had to look at the holes chewed in the sheets. It was quite a powwow." "The motorcycle," thought Ralph. What happened to the motorcycle? There might be a chance it did not go to the laundry after all. "You didn't happen to see a motorcycle in the housekeeper's office, did you?" he ventured. "I was listening, not looking out," said Uncle Lester. "I am not foolhardy like some people around here." "Ralph, you know what this means," his mother managed to pull herself together to say that much. "It means war on mice," said Aunt Dorothy ominously. "It means traps, poisons," said Uncle Lester. "Who knows? This time the management might even spend money on an exterminator. We shall have to flee. There is nothing else to do." "And if we flee, the owls will get us," said Ralph's mother, causing the brothers and sisters and cousins to set up an awful squeal. Shh! The mother mouse fluttered her paws in alarm. Flee? Ralph was bewildered. Flee and leave room service? Room service! Exclaimed his mother. How can we expect room service after you lost that poor boy's motorcycle? It's all right, Ralph assured his mother, and could not resist adding rather grandly. I've already ordered. Room service is bringing us bacon and toast with jelly. This news silenced everyone. A breakfast of bacon and toast with jelly delivered to the mouse nest without first being dropped on the carpet was not to be abandoned lightly. We want some jelly! We want some jelly! All the little cousins began to squeak. Be quiet, ordered Uncle Lester. Do you want them to find us? Ralph knew that no matter what the others chose to do, he was not going to flee from the hotel. Not until he found out what had happened to the motorcycle. He was very sure of this, and all at once he felt calm and clear-headed, as he had never felt before. He knew exactly what his family should do. Be quiet, everybody, Ralph ordered, standing up straight so all his relatives could see him. I will tell you what we are going to do. See here, Ralph, interrupted Uncle Lester, you are pretty young to be giving orders to your elders. Now, Lester, said Aunt Dorothy, let's listen to Ralph. After all, he has our food brought up to room service. No one else in the history of the family has managed that. This silenced Uncle Lester, and Ralph was allowed to continue. What we should do is keep quiet for a few days. Here he looked down at the little cousins, who for once in their lives were not squeaking. I will arrange for room service to bring our meals so we won't have to go scrabbling around in the woodwork or scrounging around in the rooms. That way we won't be tempted to taste any poison food or go near any traps, and if the management doesn't see or hear any of us for a few days, they will forget about us. They always do. Now just a minute, said Uncle Lester. This boy won't be here long. You know how it is with people, here today and gone tomorrow. Ralph had another answer. This is only Sunday. He will be here until Tuesday because Monday is the 4th of July and his father says he won't drive in holiday weekend traffic. He always brings us plenty, and if we don't stuff ourselves, we can save enough to last until the management forgets us. Uncle Lester nodded thoughtfully. That seems like a sound idea. Yes, but Ralph, there's one thing that worries me, said his mother. How are we going to tip room service? When people have a waiter bring food to the room, they always give him a coin or two for his services. We haven't any money. Ralph had not thought of this. If we are going to continue to accept room service, we must do the right thing, insisted his mother. Don't worry, I'll think of something, promised Ralph, in the grand way he had acquired since he had ordered a meal sent up to the mouse nest. So, in Chapter 9, Keith is still a little mad at Ralph, but not very mad. So he still wants to be friends with him. And Ralph's family, though, is very worried that they're going to have to move because the head housekeeper and the maids found holes in the sheets and pillowcases that Ralph had chewed through. So now they know that there are mice at the hotel, and they're worried that they're going to set traps and poison to try to catch them or kill them. And so Ralph had to come up with a plan to keep his family safe. And his plan is to have Keith help them so that they can survive until the management forgets that they're living there. And maybe they forget that they're there or think they've left. Now that we've read Chapter 9, I want you to be thinking about whether you think Keith's going to help Ralph and his family. And if Ralph's family is going to have to move, where do you think that they would move to? And have your parents send Miss Winslow a dojo message to let me know what you think is going to happen next with Ralph's family.